What's going on, everybody? Kenny Bomber's in the building, and today we start building the roster for WWE 2K24. Now, I'm predicting about 250 spots on the roster. That's a lot. We can't do all of that in one video, so the way we're going to do it is break this down 25 wrestlers per video. That's going to give us 10 videos. We're going to do one video per week, and that will lead us directly into the release of WWE 2K24. Now, I know that's a lot of information to start off with, but if you didn't get it, run it back, and I promise it'll make sense. But we're kicking this off in a big way because we're starting off with 5 superstars who have absolutely no chance of missing this roster. Unless they do something crazy before the game comes out. But we're going to start off with the guy who's already been spoiled on the character selection screen, and that is Roman Reigns. Almost the longest running WWE champion of all time. If you knock out Bruno Sammartino and all of those other old guys, it's Roman Reigns, and y'all already know he's going to make the roster. I didn't even have to tell y'all that. Next up, we have Cody Rhodes. The man who probably won't be finishing the story at WrestleMania because of this other guy you see spoiled on the character selection screen. But shout out to Cody. He's had a great year. He's had a great comeback to WWE. He's definitely earned this spot. And maybe, just maybe, he'll be able to finish the story sometime after WrestleMania. The next one we have on the list, Seth freaking Rollins. Now, I hate the gimmick, but I love the wrestler. The promos aren't good. The character is not good. He has the same problem as Kenny Omega. This guy is great in the ring, bell to bell. Maybe the best in the world. But when it comes to promo ability and his gimmick, it just doesn't fit him. So hopefully Seth Rollins figures it out soon, but that doesn't change the fact that he is one of the top dogs in WWE, and he will absolutely make it onto this roster. Next up, we got Drew McIntyre. Now, Drew McIntyre may just be on his way out the door, but that doesn't change the fact that he is with WWE right now, and I don't think they chop him off the roster if he is still under contract. So, while Drew McIntyre just may end up at Wembley Stadium later this year, he is still with WWE, so he absolutely will be on this roster in 2K24. And last, but most certainly not least for the big dogs, we have Gunther. You have to respect the champions. If I'm talking about big dogs in WWE, we have to respect the champions. And Gunther's been having a great run, and I think, it's absolutely fair to have him on the list alongside these other great guys because he's on the road to becoming a great. Hopefully he gets that match against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania because I think that will catapult him to the next level. Now, that's it for our top 5 of the GOATs in WWE right now. But they were all men. Now we got to knock out the women. These are going to be 5 women who definitely will be on this roster because right now they are the greats. I'll say the best in the world when it comes to female wrestlers, and that's no matter what promotion you're talking about. Now, if we're talking about best in the world, we got to start off with who I personally think is the best in the world when it comes to women in wrestling. I think she's underrated, and I think she's underappreciated. We got to start off with Bayley. Everybody loves Sasha Banks. Everybody loves Becky Lynch. But when it comes to character work, when it comes to promos, when it comes to bell-to-bell work, a lot of those other girls are missing 1 or 2 pieces where Bayley has everything together. When her old character wasn't working, she switched the character and it's been working ever since. So I gotta give Bayley her flowers, especially because it seems like nobody else wants to. Next up, we go to my second favorite women's wrestler in the world. That's Bianca Belair. This is one of those women who never won the NXT championship. When she was down in NXT, she just seemed like she was a step behind everybody else. But when she got on the main roster, that's where she kind of put those pieces together, and I think she shined above even some of the veteran women. So I got to give Bianca Belair that shout out. She will definitely make it in this game, as she should, because she's been one of the biggest stars in WWE in 2023. Next, we go to Becky Lynch. I can't really say anything negative about Becky Lynch, but I do think the time she took off hurt her because it seems like she cooled down a lot and she never really caught that fire again. She just lost the match to Nia Jax, and a few years ago, you would not have seen that. So shout out to Becky Lynch. She for sure will make this roster, but hopefully we can heat her back up in 2024. Next, we have Charlotte Flair. Y'all seem to hate Charlotte Flair, but I don't think you can deny her greatness. Charlotte Flair is definitely one of, if not close, arguably one of the best women of all time. she deserves her spot. Whether people want to give it to her or not, she definitely deserves the spot because she is really good. And last but not least, when it comes to locking in the great women in WWE today, we got to go with Rhea Ripley. Maybe Woman of the Year in 2023. She cooled off a lot. She was hot in NXT. She was hot when she first came into WWE, and then she kind of nosedived and she was lost for a long time. Now they have her hotter than she ever was, and I really love to see it because I think she's great. It looks like she's having a lot of fun when she's out there, so she earned this spot, a guaranteed spot on the roster as she deserves. Shout out to Rhea Ripley. Now, we go to 5 lower class wrestlers. These are guys who definitely earn their spot on the roster from just being those workmen in 2023. I know we'll see them on here, but again, they are kind of weaker names. And we got to start off with not your Rhea Ripley. We got to start off with Austin Theory. And just on SmackDown tonight, Austin Theory had a nasty fall against who? Carmelo Hayes. Hopefully those two guys are all right because that bump was definitely brutal. I think they just got contusions on their face or something, but it was nasty. They made it out of there lucky because it looks like both of them landed on their necks. But Austin Theory is a wrestler who had a great spot at WrestleMania when they were in Houston. I don't remember the number, but he got that spot in there with Stone Cold. Even though he lost the match against Pat McAfee, I think at the end of the night, he had one of the most memorable spots. So shout out to Austin Theory, another guy who was lost. Hopefully he picks it up here pretty soon because it's time to fish or cut bait. Austin Theory has to figure it out. And as we just saw, Carmelo Hayes, a guy who looks like he's headed to the main roster, and I think at the perfect time, because if Vince was still the head of everything, I don't think it would have went well for Carmelo. While he's really good, he has that star presence, he has the aura, the promos are good, he's just very small. So hopefully under Triple H regime, he can thrive, but we'll have to see because he's going to be in there with a lot of guys who are a lot bigger than him. Like Randy Orton will tower over this man. We'll see how it goes, but he's great, so hopefully we see the best from Carmelo Hayes. Next, Angelo Dawkins. Whew, it's tough. Angelo Dawkins is a tough one, man. I think the Street Profits actually hurt Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, because now they're kind of those goofy guys. And it's tough because when Montez Ford came up, everybody was saying, oh, this is a future WWE champion. This guy, he's going to be a WWE champion. I don't know if I see that in him now. We see Bobby Lashley is kind of taking them under his wing, but they came out on SmackDown and these guys had the craziest angry faces on. I was like, what are we doing here? It looked like a cartoon acting gimmick because they looked like they were trying to be mad, but it just didn't look real at all. The level of anger they had in their eyes for what happened to them before to be a week ago was just insane. So these guys definitely need work. They're going to have to make a 360 for me to believe them because I just think they're kind of pegged into that goofy role like the New Day. But the New Day, a lot of them got championships, so we'll see where it goes. Maybe it's not too late for them. The next wrestler we will lock onto this roster is Baron Corbin. You know what? Baron Corbin is one of those guys who you think probably would be released, but he actually performs very well when he's out there. It seems like he just never caught the fire they wanted him to, but I think Baron Corbin is really good, and he deserves his spot on the roster. I think he should be one of the guys who stays, kind of passes all of those cuts because he's just a good hand, a good utility man. I don't think he'll ever win like a WWE championship, but he's really good enough for me to lock him on this roster right now, so that's got to say something. Shout out to Baron Corbin. But Baron Corbin is actually the last wrestler on the category of mid that we'll touch on today, because now we're jumping in to the legendary spots. And when we talk about legends, we're not talking about Bruno Sammartino. We're not talking about guys like Hulk Hogan, Harley Race. I mean, shouts out to all of them, but the legends for me all came from the Attitude Era, and we're knocking out the easy choices in this video, so we're going to some Attitude Era legends, and we got to start with not you, Baron Corbin. We got to start with my favorite wrestler of all time. That is The Undertaker. Now, here we have modern day Undertaker on the list, but I'm hoping we get about 10 Undertakers on the roster. I usually don't like to have multiple wrestlers in multiple spots, but for The Undertaker, it's definitely necessary. I think we'll do a whole separate video where we have the duplicate wrestlers. That'll be one of the 10. But today, we're just going to go ahead and lock in The Undertaker. Next, we got The Rock, spoiled on the character selection screen, but this is the guy who should and most likely will go on to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. Cody Rhodes is great, y'all, but he really should have won the title last year at WrestleMania, and I don't think he's going to win it this year at WrestleMania because Roman Reigns is set to beat Hulk Hogan's streak on September 13th, and I don't think he's going to lose the belt before then. So if Cody's not going to win at WrestleMania, who's the best wrestler to put in this spot? I think it's The Rock. So I think The Rock should have a big spot in WWE 2K24 should he be the box star. If they knew he was coming back in 2024 to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, there's a good chance he will be, but I still hope it's The Undertaker. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Oh, hell yeah. You got to go with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold is like the Statue of Liberty if you think WWE. This is the guy that held the company up for so long. Now, he had support with guys like The Rock, Triple H, even Vince McMahon, but he's a staple. You got to put Stone Cold Steve Austin in every WWE game moving forward. I don't care if it's a crazy RPG or whatever they want to do. You got to lock in Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, this next guy is another wrestler who is highly underrated. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and that guy is Kane. You got to think about how Kane came in. He came in to be a support character for The Undertaker, but in the end, he made a whole career out of it. Different variations, different versions of him, and every time he switched it up, he made a hit out of it every time. You got lobster face Kane, you got bald Kane, you got the mask Kane when he came in, half mask Kane, spin-a-rooney Kane, or Kane-a-rooney Kane. I think Kane is undeniable, and I think the stuff he's doing with the government right now is definitely going to hurt his legacy, but when it comes to Kane and wrestling, definitely top 10 of all time, so I got to give my boy his flowers. Now, this next one was kind of tough because I wanted to make sure I got all of my favorite legends in this one video. This one was going to be a spot between two guys, but in the end, I had to go with the guy who's definitely one of my favorite in my top 5, and that's Triple H. Talk about a reign of terror all you want, but this is another man who was definitely versatile and could switch it up whenever you needed him to. Triple H is one of the GOATs. Triple H is definitely a legend. Triple H is in my top 5 of all time, and this is another guy I want to see multiple versions of in this game. I mean, he wouldn't be where he is today if he wasn't one of the greats, so y'all could talk all that trash y'all want about Triple H, but he is definitely one of the GOATs. Now, we get to these NXT wrestlers. We're gonna lock in 5. Now, I'm not invested in NXT like I used to be, but the fact that these 5 wrestlers stand out to me is pretty big, and I think they deserve to be in the first video. So let's go ahead and start off with the first one, who is Braun Breaker. If Cody doesn't finish the story, Braun Breaker just might be the guy to finish the story. I think he is definitely the guy who is next up on their list because you look at some of the NXT wrestlers they're bringing up to the main roster and they're keeping him down there when he's definitely ready. I think they got big things in store for Braun Breaker. And if he's the one to beat Roman Reigns, I don't know if that's going to go good for them because people will feel like WWE is forcing them down their throats and it might not end up too well. So we'll see where they go with Braun, but I think he definitely has a lot of potential. Next, we got Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton has that certain aura about her, and I'm not talking about the fact that she's pretty. I don't know what it is. When I actually see her on like X or things like that, she gives off that wrestler aura, and it seems like she's confident and she believes in herself. So I think she is going to be a star in the future in the likes of an Alexa Bliss. We'll see where she goes. Next, we got Trick Williams. I watched NXT when he first came in, and the guy was very green. It seemed like his promos weren't great, his matches he wasn't great, but if I tuned in here just recently, it seems like he's improved a lot. He's been standing up in there, doing his thing. He won a title. They took it off of him. Again, I'm not invested. I don't know what's going on, but I think they believe in him as well, and I think he might have a higher upside than even Carmelo Hayes. Time will tell. Next up is another guy we put up here with the big dogs because he's the NXT champion, so we got to give him his respect. Elijah Dragunov? Again, I'm not invested. When I watch, I think the guy looks kind of undersized. I don't know why he's on the top of the division right now, but he must be really good, so I'm not going to deny him. I'm going to give the man his spot because they obviously see something in him with him being a champion, so shout out to Dragunov. Cool name, though. Really like the name. And last, but most certainly not least, this is a wrestler who will absolutely make it on this game and any game she wants to be on. Why? because she's The Rock's daughter. Ava. Is her name Ava Rain or something now? I don't know, but whether she's good or not, she's going to get those spots she wants to be in, especially if they want to keep The Rock happy. So I'm definitely sure she is going to be making it into WWE 2K24. Now that's it for today. We got 25 wrestlers. Why are they covered right now? Well, because we got to preserve the watch time. But they will be uncovered in part 2, which will be released next Saturday. But don't worry, we will have more 2K24 content coming throughout the week. Thank y'all for tuning into this video. Don't forget to drop a like on it and smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Bomb Squad, let's get to that.